Hello students, myself Dr. Surendra K, Singh, Faculty of Sociology, teaching sociology for more than 24 years. Now here today, the purpose of today's meeting is basically to address how to raise your marks, how to fulfill your dreams with the sociology as an option. Let me first congratulate all of those who have cleared prelims, and also to say a few words to those who have not cleared. Don't lose your hearts. It is not the end of your life. Once again, you try to find out where the problems have been there, where the things have gone wrong. But now coming back, when we're looking at here, those who will be taking prelims, the mains, with the sociology as an optional. You have very less time here. And you need to put some extra time, extra hours. Because you have to go for the GS, you have to go for your optional, you have to go for the essays. Now in this very perspective, I hope most of you whosoever will be taking the mains, they have gone through the entire syllabus, you have completed the syllabus. And once you have completed the syllabus, particularly you are aware of the nature of sociology. I always say that when we are looking at sociology is a scientific one. Sociology has been taught to me as a science. And when you say that it is scientific, then it is systematic. Its nature is analytical, not descriptive merely. Nothing to mug up. Whenever you pick up any unit, whenever you pick up any sub-unit even, try to go deep into it, think of that one. And in this very perspective, the conceptual clarity is the most important dimension, particularly in sociology. Though the entire UPSC is of the conceptual clarity, but we are talking about sociology and optional. Conceptual clarity is must. And once you have made the conceptual clarity, then clarity of expression while writing your answers, understanding the neat disposition of the questions seems to be the more important one. Sometimes you find that the questions have been bit off-bit, out of the course. No, there is nothing such thing like that in sociology. Either we have not been able to open up the dimensions, or we have not been able to do our justice with the unit. When you say that sociology is an optional, now this is the time for you not only to revise, but also to make a synopsis, note-wise, point-wise analysis, point-wise writing. And make it a habit that every day you are going to write at least 4 or 5 questions, 5 or 6 pages every day. In sociology I am talking about, because you will be having the same practice in terms of GS and others. So you need to have a very constructive time division between your GS, sociology and essay. Now when we are looking at the entire syllabus, first paper and second paper, I say that you need to have not only the conceptual clarity, but you also need to know that what are the connectivity between the topics. And when I was looking at some of the last year few questions, the questions I did not find any offbeat out of the track. The point is that we have not done our work seriously. We have not tried to give some extra hours to understand. Now when you talk about any concept, then you need to know not only the static dimension, but also the certain kind of evolution of the concept which has come that will make you understand that one. For example, when I looking at, I found the one of the question that was there in terms of David Morgan's family life. Within a year or two, that question was there. Onward and upward kind of analysis. Ongoing process and practices, that was the question within which you have to talk about. This was obvious question, because when you are talking about the static dimension of the family. Then you are basically looking at the traditional structural viewpoint of the family. Now when we are looking at here, this question is basically which will making you understand that how the change, evolution of the family has emerged out. And in this very perspective, everyday activities to the meaningful emotional bonds, communication, that focus has been there. He is focusing on the activities which constitute the family. So development and change over time in a family, that was the major requirement. In a very brief, if I talk about. The point I picked up the question because that when you say development over time, it means when you look at any concept, a static concept, how this concept has been picked up and it shows certain evolution, within it the newer works comes out, the changing perspectives comes out, certain scholars will come out with their views. If we approach in this manner, some questions will always become more easier in part of you. And that way, Leela Dubé's, this is the second time I am finding the question in terms of seed and earth. If you look at the system of Kinsey, we find about patriarchy, sexual division of labor and entitlements. There you find about it how she has used the seed and earth metaphor. Man and woman kind of one, seed with the man, earth with the woman. Earth with the woman, and that way this much clarity has to be there. The pervasive patriarchal ideology in general in a South Asian context and in Indian context, that way from where the seed and earth metaphor by the Leela Dubé would be used. So if these questions are there, they are not new. They are within the context when you are looking at the syllabus. I always say that when you are looking at the syllabus right from the paper 1, you need to understand the linkage between the units. For example, if you look at the unit 1, modernity, consequent changes, the emergence of sociology, then one of the acquisitions, sociology, is the study of obvious, and that way you come to the sociology in a common sense. I always say that what separates sociology from the common sense is its scientific nature. Once you talk about the scientific nature, the unit 2 will begin sociology as a science. And once you talk about the scientific nature of sociology, you will be finding about a certain theoretical stance. I was looking at last year the questions on dramatological approach of Irving Goffman that has come out. Now these questions are not new, dear. When you look at the sociology as a science, you will find about the theoretical stance. Look at a macro and a micro. Right from functionalism to conflict theory, to interpretism, to the social action theory, to symbolic interpretism, to phenomenology, to dramatological. You do there. And that way, jog down. Point-wise, you write down some of the points so that you would be able to do the justice if such kind of question comes out and you are more confident that yes, when you are going to the mains, you go there with the confidence. Unit 2, when we have linked with the sociology and the common sense, then you need to talk about that sociology is a science or is sociology a science. This debate has to be understood. Now I always say that the syllabus when you are looking at, the debate in sociology is not whether sociology is a science or not. The debate will intensify, debate will evolve, that what kind of methods we use in sociology. The methodological debate between natural and social science, that would be the more important one, within which you need to talk about positivism, non-positivism and post-positivism kind of perspective. So the unit 2 is 1. When you talk about the theoretical stance, right from which I said about functionalism to Marxism to or conflict theory to interpretism to social action, within which this you will be finding about the positivism, non-positivist debate. You need to talk about in terms of the 3 words: epistemological, ontological nature, how do we know ontological, and axiological. The moment you come to this level of your understanding, once again I say epistemological, ontological, axiological, then the questions on value free, value laden, Such kind of questions you will be able to handle. You know from where to start and how to begin that one. So there in the unit 2 we find about facts, value and objectivity. All right. And then once you have talked about, you will be finding about the debate in terms of quantitative, qualitative dimension. But do not stop in terms of knowing that what are the methodological difference between a quantitative and qualitative one. The questions have been opened up here. The debate between the quantitative and qualitative has not merely been in terms of methodological concern, but it has also taken a philosophical concern, in which there was one question in terms of epistemological one. And when you talk about the epistemological one, then the debate was there in terms of positivism and interpretivism. And when you talk about ontological one, the debate is there in terms of the qualitative methods. The debate is in terms of realism, materialism and idealism. Same scholars there. Durkheim, Weber, Marx. Your focus should always be there. In this less time, your major focus should be in terms of the unit 4. Themes which are there in the syllabus. So the moment you are looking at the sociology, look at the conceptual clarity, when I say conceptual clarity, dear, no ambiguity. Structurally, you know that this is the concept, this is the question, it is a requirement. And there must be clarity of expression in your writing. And be analytical, systematic and analytical. When you say analytical, within this one, you also need to come to the level of anticipation. Not necessarily the questions which have been asked, they will be asked. But the syllabus is there. Within the syllabus, you also need to anticipate from where the questions could come out. That's why I say that when you're talking about, when you pick up any concept, look at the static dimension, the things which you have read it. But this concept has also to be looked in its evolution, so that you will be understand diversity, changes over time. And once you know it, sometimes the questions would be directly from there. Easier to do this one. Sometimes with every unit, every sub-units, you will find about whether questions are there or changes over time. David Morgan's question I said about, because anyone who is talking about the family would be looking at the changes in a family. We will be talking about how the shift is coming in sociology, from the traditional structural view to look at the new changes, activities which is evolving in family. So these questions will you be able to understand that one. It's not so that abruptly certain scholars are being asked. Those scholars are being asked who have been there and who have established with their ideas. So that way these questions we will be able to understand that. And once you do this one of the most important dimension which now here is your writing practice. I do not want to demotivate you here, but let me make one sentence, that if you do not have a proper writing practice, it will be too difficult in the mains. Now this is the time where you make a schedule, and in a war-footed manner you just follow that schedule. I'm not saying that you write about 50 pages. I'm saying about every day you make it a point that you are going to write 4 or 5 questions. At least 1000 words, 1200 words. At least 4 or 5 questions you are talking about. Making the synopsis of the previous year questions. And looking at that, if this question comes out, how the things has to be done. And opening up all the dimensions. I said that when you are looking at unit 1 from here, we said about sociology and common sense. These questions are coming from here, dear. Make a table like this. Common sense. Pick up certain instances, the sentences, and look at sociological investigation. Write down few examples. Whether any held idea is true or not requires justification, requires testification. You might have gone through that old ancient Chinese foot binding practice. Is a common sense. The moment you look at the work of Black, you find about that this is not true. So that way, the things have to be looked at. Right? Write down, give certain points, yes or no, and make analytical answer of yours. And once you do this one, then look at here, unit 2, sociology as a science. One unit, if you find about 5 A, B, C, D, E are there, the scientific nature, the theoretical stance, then positivism and critic, facts, value and objectivity, and the non-positivist one. You pick all this from A, B, C, D, and E, which is in the syllabus, in a one go. You find about of late the questions have been there in terms of facts and value. Talk about this one. There are certain questions directly in terms of Weber. Can there be value-free sociology? Such kind of questions are there. So you place it here. That a debate between positivism and non-positivism has to be understood by you. What are the tenets which they have raised? What are the propositions they have brought it? But once again I am saying that the debate is not whether sociology is a science or not. The debate is whether the methods of natural science be applied or not. And if I could quote Weber, who has taken the idiographic approach in sociology, that sociology to become science does not need to be positivistic in orientation. And the second sentence he makes, that even if sociology is not positive, even if sociology is not positivistic, objectivity does not prelude it. All right? Relation of science to value, the concept of value neutrality. You will be knowing this all in terms of Weberian methodology. But they are not only to be used here, dear. In a Weber, you find about the questions of ideal types. And I find basically in the test series and others, whenever I ask the questions or the questions are there, then you begin with this is a cognitive map, mental map. Now, can you write that the formation of ideal type is basically to address the problem of relation of science to value and a problem of value neutrality in sociology? Ideal type is also a refutal to the claim of science that can understand the infinite dimension of reality. Once you have done this one, then you will be knowing about ideal type, its use, the features, the characteristics. Such kind of questions have been there. The point which I am trying to say that do not miss the finer dimensions of the answer. Every question, every perspective that you come across Go deep into it. Try to find that am I missing something? Many a times while writing, you miss the finer points of the need disposition of the question. And you miss certain marks. 1 mark is important to us. And once you have raised this debate here, then also remember certain perspectives. Sometimes they ask you the post-positivism. But any one of you who has gone through either Marx or who has gone through sociology as a science, the idea of falsification of Karl Popper, Thomas Kuhn paradigm, you might have come across this one. And from there, the certain background of post-positivism would be understood to you. This background has to be understood by you. Once you have done this one, then the debate would be there in terms of the methods of naturals, methods. Have I not come to the unit 3, research methodology? And it begins with the quantitative and qualitative. What I was saying, the debate between this quantitative and qualitative is not only methodological, but also philosophical. Isn't it? Now, if you say philosophical, then there was a question, epistemological dimension of qualitative method. Open it here, qualitative one, in terms of epistemological and ontological. Epistemological debate would be there in terms of positivism and interpretism. Durkheim and Weber. And once you are entering to Durkheim and Weber's debate, you will also be finding certain dimension in terms of nomothetic and ideographic. That question has been there. And there, in ontological one, you have to remember 3. Realism, the external facts, Durkheim would come out. Materialism, Marxian perspective will come out. Idealism, Weberian dimension will come out. So, only half has been asked here. You can anticipate. I was talking about anticipation here. Here is the anticipation. That if this question has been asked, epistemological dimension, so there may be probability of the ontological questions. And once you see it, you know it. You agree that whatever you read is not necessarily everything will come. But once your knowledge is structured, you become very confident that yes, I have to be able to do justice whatever has been asked to me. And once you have done that one day, then the questions from the research methods are increasing. And think of not only the questions, not only the units which have been there, the hypothesis, validity, reliability, sampling, they are asking probable, non-probable one. But also raise the concerns on methodology. That how with the rise of feminism, the concerns in sociology changed. And not merely in terms of sociology discipline, but also in terms of the research methodology, the methodological perspective. Such kind of questions are coming there. So when you read something in terms of rising feminism and others, why don't you look at that what they are demanding in sociology as well? What they are demanding in development, what they are demanding in state. So that way, if you go a bit deep, start thinking, then the questions would not be new to you. You would be able to understand that this is the perspective through which I have to approach this unit, I have to look at this one and make a synopsis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that these are the points which I am going to write. And write in a systematic manner, write in a linear manner. From the very early stage when I started teaching, since then I have been telling that escalation of the subject marks is done first by the teacher. That if he has not opened up all the dimensions, then your knowledge is incomplete. And if the teacher has done his best, then you have, and if you have not done it, then you are to be blamed. Whatever you have read it. This is enough time. Think of this one, pick up one unit, do this one. And once you have done this one, then come to the unit 4. Here. I don't know how many times I have said the same line, still I am repeating the line. This is the heart and soul of sociology. And I have always believed in the 3 words in a thinkers. You just go through writing down the themes, concepts, and methodology. All right. And themes are which are written in your syllabus. For example, if you pick up a mild Durkheim, abruptly I am picking up. Or even if you pick up Karl Marx, so the questions on historical materialism has been asked so many times. Questions on division of labor by Durkheim has been asked to you. Then if this concept is there, if the theme is there, what are the concepts which you are going to use? For example, if I picked up division of labor as a theme, then what are the concepts which you are going to use? Can I write one for you? Suppose the first concept will be collective conscience. Then how division of labor of Durkheim is intricately linked to the types of laws. So you will be talking about restitutive, repressive and restitutive law. So this is another concept which we will be talking about. Then we will also be talking about the mechanical organic metaphor. Once you have looked up mechanical and organic metaphor, then we will be talking about concept of homoduplex for society, for individual, and then moral individualism. And pathological division of labor. So look at, these are the concepts. It means in this theme, these are the concepts which should be there in your mind. Now look at the question, that what are the things which have to be talked about? Because the nature of questions will make you understand that which is the concept to be highlighted more. If they are asking the types of, then your major focus should be here. But does not mean that you will not be writing about this all. Data is same, concepts are same. Which way the weightage has to be given, that is according to the nature of the question. And then you find about that he is a functionalist, positivist, and is also a realist. Make it. And once you have done this one, like all these 6 scholars, then try to go for the comparative analysis. They ask you the questions on in terms of comparison between Durkheim and Marx on division of labor. And we talk about Durkheim, mechanical, organic, social division of labor, exploitative division of labor by Marx. But they are also talking about the consequences of division of labor. One in terms of anomie, one in terms of alienation. If I make a diagram, try to understand, if I could make you understand. That here, if you division of labor, I am talking about Emile Durkheim and Karl Marx. Mechanical, organic, social and exploitative. Give certain brief related with the class system. And when you look at the consequences, he will be talking about the concept anomy. Here, you will be finding about the concept that is called alienation. Is there a way that we can understand this one? If I make a diagram here, look at it here, dear. Anomy, alienation, psychological, social. All right? Anomy is social in nature. Alienation is psychological in nature. Now, I am just asking you to look at the possibility that if anomy is psychological in level, then it will reflect similarity with alienation. And if alienation is social in character, it will reflect similarity with anomy. You try to bring a wedding between French and the German ideology, that is Durkheim's and Weber's. But here it does not stop. Since we have picked up division labor, this is one question. You also look at what are the changes which are coming out. I looked at aesthetic and the changes. Now we are witnessing that how we are witnessing a change from primary to secondary to tertiary. So the nature of division of labor is also changing, in which the technological advancement is playing an important role. If any one of you have gone through John Pakulski, Death of Class, that how the traditional proletariats are declining. You look at Ken Roberts, that how the technological advancement has brought the decline in the manual labor and increased the non-manual labor. Such questions have been there, dear. These questions are anticipated. Since long we have been teaching this dimension, and the questions have started coming recently. But it does not mean that we will not be talking about, because see, these questions is not coming out, I will not be looking at. No. Do not have these escapist tendencies. You never know what other things would be there, what the questions would be asked. And once you know it, you will be more confident. Make this all 6 comparative analysis. They are asking the questions like, if you are looking at the questions have been there in terms of social stratification of Marx and Weber. So many times they have asked the question. They are asking the question in terms of capitalism of Marx and Weber. The methodology is the prime concern here. That very finer nuances of methodology has to be understood. All right. When you begin with a Weber, and if I make a line, that there is no such thing as capitalism, there has always been capitalisms. Have we not come to the ideal type? Why in the course of history the certain individual turned their actions to the accumulation of capital? That cannot merely be answered from the Marxian perspective. Isn't it? So you pick up the analysis and try to look at the methodology, and within this methodological debate, you try to find out the certain lines. The base in a stratification, we were talking about this question last year, which I was looking at. The base of social stratification in Marx is a class. But if I make a line, that this economic dimensions where the Marx has highlighted subsumes political and social dimensions. Weber, with help of the ideal types, opens up. What was subsumed, Weber opens it. And when he says to view property as a sole criterion would be myopic in nature. And thus he brings about the 2 other structural elements in terms of status and a party. Trinity model will come out. This clarity is required here. The data is known to, I know that you are confident, you know the data. But these are the certain finer points which will help you fetch more marks. If you are getting out of this writing tentatively, you are getting 6, 8, 10, And if you are rating in what the structure which I am giving it, if it enhances 2 marks, 1.5 marks every question, then you are the king. You have achieved what you wanted to achieve. And sociology will not be a cause of rejection. Sociology will make you achieve the ranks. And from there, all the things are conceptual one. All the theories are there. Every unit from 5 to 10 begins with sociological theories on power, sociological theories on religion, sociological theory and change. Isn't it? Your major focus should be these 6. But I do request, you give 1 hour to every thinker going for the historical background. Look at all those social, economic and political happenings of that time. Once you have done it, then you will be picking up the themes, and then we will be looking at what methodology it has been brought out. Questions are coming from mid now. I don't know whether German idealism, impact of German idealism in terms of the emergence of generalized others is known to you now. When you talk about the interaction between I and me, you will find about the impact of Darwin, natural selection and variation. Wilhelm Wundt's The Dogfight, within which you will find about non-significant, significant gestures. When you look at the impact of Einstein on him, then you will find about how mid moves towards non-positivism. Such conceptual clarity I want you when you go for the mains, with the confidence. Look, 1 or 2 questions would be there where certain problem would be there. But when you do it from that perspective, you are more confident to approach that one. Don't leave any subunit. And when you look at the units, bring about the second paper there. For example, when we talk about social stratification, caste is there. Try to find out how the certain scholars which you have gone there can be used. The relevance has to be talked about. Simple one line to remember. That most of the scholars who are there in the 19th century or in the mid of the 20th century, if they are here in sociological syllabus, some relevance would be there. That relevance has to be understood by us. Outrightly you cannot reject. When you criticize it. Because critic is more learned than the scholar. But only criticism for the sake of criticism is not the habit. It should not be your attitude. You look at the relevance of that one. And there are the certain theoretical perspectives. Perspectives in the study of caste system. 4 names are there. G.S. Gurye, Indological. Louis Dumont, Structuralist. He will be bringing about the modern structuralism of Claude Lévi-Strauss. Binary opposition, which we will be looking in terms of pure and impure in Louis Dumont. A structural functionalism, M.N. Srinivas. Impact of a structural functionalism along with the Trinity model. Impact of Weber on Andre Bethe. This clarity is required here. And once you, when I'm talking about Indological, structural functionalism, structural Marxism, then that way your syllabus begins with the second paper. No way, I was just talking to a few of the students today. They said, sir, can we first finish the first paper? And then I said, no. Why do you go that you understand this one, then you will be going for this one? Try to understand, try to look at that how the conceptual clarity, what the theoretical methodological method which you have developed in a paper 1, how that could be used in a paper 2 as well. Questions are coming from development and dependence. Emmanuel Everestine questions have been asked twice earlier, and here the questions are being asked. Isn't it? So we'll be looking at development from the Marxist perspective, the conflict perspective, critical perspective. Previous to D. Dos Santos to A.G. Frank, the questions could be there from the A.G. Frank as well. And once you have known this one, then come the Emmanuel Everestine, world system theory. So I'm saying it, look at previous, T. Dos Santos, Andrew Gunther Frank, Emmanuel Everestine, and now the globalization. This is the sequence. You look at from there, the theory beginning and what is the new contemporary times. Sometimes the questions would be there from these theoretical dimensions. Sometimes the questions would be there in a new changes. So there the impact of globalization is coming out. Why do we wait? When the globalization will come, I'll read. No, here it is there. That's why I say, concept is static, but I make it a point that you are also looking at the dynamism inherent in it. Isn't it? You are looking at the evolution of the concepts. And once you look at, these kind of questions could be done. You would be able to do justice. Your answers should be compact, dear. And you will raise the subjectivity of the teacher to fetch more marks. And this integrated manner will basically be making you fetch more marks of that one. System of kinship, isn't it? It is in paper 1 as well, in a paper 2 as well. You need to raise the debate between Morgan versus Claude Lévi-Strauss, alliance theory. And that way you will be finding about the debate in terms of northern and southern kinship. Isn't it? So sometimes they are asking the northern and southern. Sometimes they are asking only in terms of Irauti Karves. Getting me? That way difference has to be understood. That the Morgans and the Claude Lévi-Strauss, that has to be understood. Perspective of alliance theory has to be applied in a southern kinship. Once you know this kind of conceptual clarity, you would be able to not only understand the concepts, but you would also be able to understand the differences, if there is any, between the conceptual dimensions of the paper 1 and conceptual dimension of the paper 2. For example, if you are looking at a clan, then you find about some sort of biological relationship. But the moment you look at the Gotra, and when you look at the works of G.S. Ghurye, that is not only biological, it is also spiritual. Now look at the difference. Look at the comparison now. And that way, the things would be there. So whichsoever the units which are there in a first paper, once you have developed it, go deep into it, anticipate that one, make the concept clarity, be systematic, make the synopsis, and bring the second paper. Look at the similarities between the concepts and where the concepts have differed with one another, what the perspective has been brought. The moment it says G.S. Ghurye, you will be talking about ideological perspective. Similar will be the things in terms of work and economic life, unit 6, polity and society, that is there in a part C, unit 4, religion. And the final difference has to be understood here. In a first paper, when you talk about religion, you find about the concept secularization. But this very concept secularization is there in a polity in a second paper. That the onus to maintain secularism in India lies more with the state. This clarity is there. So that's why it was not in religion, it was written in polity and society. When you talk about System of kinship, I just told you. Religion in India, that is the topic. Part B, Unit 6. And Unit 10 begins with a change in a modern society. Your Part C of the second paper begins with a vision of change in India. And the point is there, when we talk about the vision of change in India, we are only looking at which is written in the syllabus. No dear, you look at the concept of the theme of change, from orthogenetic to heterogenetic, from Sanskritization to Westernization to politicization to modernization. Even we will be talking about great and little tradition, such questions are coming to you. Robert Redfield's impact, and then we will be talking about Milton Singh, McKim Marriott. Bring these dimensions, write down vision of change in India. These are the theoretical models. Few points, write it down. Look at the question. If the questions are there, focus on that very perspective. All right. You need to talk about this question of little tradition, great tradition has been asked to you. Vicarious ritualization, neutralization of ritualization from the perspective of Milton Singh. Then talking about the concept of universalization and parochialization from McKim Marriott. And then you look at constitutional law and change. Education and change. Education and change is part of the first paper as well. When you're talking about education and change, talk about this in education and change. What are the impediments to the change? What are the segments who have not been able to be related to the process of education despite this 75 or 76 years of independence, which will make it the very end of the syllabus, disparity and inequality in education. Once you have done like this, only few units should be left in a second paper. For example, agrarian, caste system, we have done it, tribals, social movements, population. And there are, I look at so many questions which are coming in terms of there is one unit in a part B, classes in India, agrarian, industrial, middle class. Have you ever raised the theoretical debate? That when the question on second paper in terms of class and caste and class, then a structuralist perspective of Louis Dumont, a structural functionalist perspective of M.N. Srinivas Andrebete, a structural Marxist perspective of A.R. Desai and Mukherjee, modernistic perspective of Yogendra Singh, K.L. Sharma's multidimensional perspective. Do justice. Very rarely I find the maximum students who are approaching the second paper, they approach the second paper with a theoretical methodological perspective. It's a long journey of Indian sociology. And in this journey of 104 years, if I'm talking about from there, from 1919 to 2024, in the journey of 124 years, it has also developed its theoretical dimensions. Approach the second paper, look at the evolution of the theoretical dimensions, give that much 1 hour. Look at the development, evolution of the theoretical models, Indological, structuralism, structural functionalism, structural Marxism, modernism, and subaltern one. Subaltern question has been there. Ranjit Guha, you'll be finding about in terms of Gramsci's. Time and again, why I talked about this is basically to pick up the concepts and look at all the dimensions of the concepts, so that your answers would make it different from others, which will fetch you more marks. In the advanced course that will begin from tomorrow, it's not merely about the certain selective one. It's not only about knowing the conceptual clarity and knowing about the descriptive dimensions, analytical dimensions, but also solving all the questions of the previous years. But once again I'm saying, I'll not stop only in a PYQs, because I don't believe the question which has been asked would be repeated next year. We'll be anticipating the questions. Sometimes half part of the question has been asked. We'll be looking at the other half part of the question as well. If there is any, we'll be anticipating that one. So from tomorrow when we'll be talking about, it is not merely the conceptual clarity, substantiating your knowledge, maximizing your marks, but also making you confident to look at the questions and the changes of there. So when you go to the mains, you go with the confidence. I invite all of you tomorrow to come and feel the difference. In a 30, 35, 40 minutes, it will not be able to do justice with the different questions. But I think in this 40, 45 minutes, I have opened up the dimensions. And I made you why such questions comes out. These questions are not new. I don't believe in this one. Questions will not surprise me, and if it has not surprised me, it will not surprise you as well. We both will conquer. I'll do my best to make you understand, to discuss all the things, to make you the synopsis of the question, that this is the question, these are the points to be written. But I also expect that when you have gone home, you have done your work, and when the next morning when you come out, we sit down together in a one-to-one mentorship kind of perspective, we'll be talking about, sir, this is the question, either these are the things which I have written, is there anything which I require to write on that one? And it's not merely the relationship between the 20 days, that when the course is finished. Even after the course is finished, when you write down something, you come to me, I'm there. And we'll be talking about this one. We'll do our best to be in the list. I wish all of you the best of luck. Thank you.